Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And that's why we're so excited to be talking about Soul Hope. We're honored to have with us Drü Collie, co-founder and Director of Philanthropy with Soul Hope. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. How are you today?
Doing well. When you talk about the power of what you're doing internationally, it's amazing. And so health, wellness, education, fighting jiggers. We're going to talk about foodborne infection, the power of shoes. But let's start with a little bit of history. So give us some background for Soul Hope, starting back in 2010.
Yeah, it was actually a couple of years before that. We were living in Nashville, North Carolina, and came across a YouTube video, a 3-minute YouTube video that forever changed our lives. It was of a jigger removal clinic in Kenya. And often I need to say to Americans, I'm not talking about chiggers, which are the tiny mite that bites and they're annoying. You get them while you're fishing or at the beach. These are actually a parasite that burrows under the skin and it's devastating. It feeds on the blood and swells with eggs and replicates quickly and keeps kids from walking, going to school, things like that. And an even more devastating part is that a lot of people in Uganda think that it's witchcraft or a curse. And so the stigma really runs deep and they're outcasts or they hide them away if they have this problem of jiggers. So came across this video. I was just living a normal American life. I was actually district manager for Starbucks for Western North Carolina. Just a normal life. We had 2 kids. We didn't have time to look outside of America for something to do. Came across the problem though, and it just really broke our hearts and started taking a few short-term trips to Africa to kind of discover what is this problem of jiggers and is there something we can do about it? And through that, just found out that no one was doing anything about this. It's a neglected tropical disease. The CDC, the World Health Organization, they have it on the neglected tropical disease list, but it's so low that Soul Hope is really the only organization in the world doing anything about this head on. Found out the problem was real, felt called to do something. We were probably just young and dumb enough to think that we could tackle a epidemic 8,000 miles away. And so we started Soul Hope out of Asheville. And it was kind of on the tailwind of Tom's shoes that had a big rise in '05, '06, '07. They were educating Americans that shoes are important and we take them for granted in America. And so we got a lot of tailwind in the beginning from that. But it just took us on this wild journey of living in Uganda for 6 years, raising up the organization. And I can tell you more about what we do today, but that's the history.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big leap of faith to literally move your family over there, live there for 6 years. Now you're based in Nashville. And when you talk about just the power of health and what you're doing with the foot washing, inspection for the jiggers, the shoes, manufacturing shoes now, I mean, to your point, like there's a lot to what you do. So go ahead and start unpacking kind of the process and how it all works.
Yeah, so after we discovered it, we started building a team of doctors, nurses, social workers. A big part of what we do is tailors and shoemakers. And so every week, our team is going into the villages around Uganda, around eastern Uganda, and washing the feet of hundreds of children and inspecting them for jiggers. If they have other medical problems, we treat those as well. But we remove the jiggers. It's actually something you have to remove. There's no medication that expels these parasites from the body. And so we remove the jiggers. We provide education around hygiene and prevention, and we give shoes. And the tie-in to America, which is very cool, is people have these things called shoe cutting parties or team building events where people gather their old denim, which we all have 5 pairs of jeans in our closet that we don't wear, and they cut out these shapes. I don't know if you can see this on the camera here. So they just trace and cut these 8 shapes, and this is the heel patch, and these get sent to Uganda where we employ tailors and shoemakers to turn them into shoes that look like this with tire soles. And so these are the shoes that we give out weekly to thousands of children. And then since we've started, we've given out over 370,000 pairs of these. And so I just think about we've touched over 370,000 pairs of feet, washed them, made the connection with the child, and given them shoes to protect their feet from jiggers. And it just goes on from there. The very serious cases come to our residential facility in Jinja, Uganda, where they stay for 3 weeks to a few months, depending on the kind of healing that they need. The thing about jiggers is that it's a very easily solvable problem as far as the physical side of it, but the stigma and the misinformation around this problem, it's that's the bigger boat to turn for sure.
Touch on to the aspect by doing this, you're keeping them in school, to your point, connected to community and not ostracized, like the psychological piece of this, but the path for their success to be able to stay in school healthy with their family, like that's huge for really transforming the legacy and the future of their family, for many years to come.
100%. Yeah, there's a lot of roadblocks that come with not having shoes. And we really take that for granted. I know I do in America. We don't think about our shoes at all. We use them as a fashion statement, and we use them for something very different here in America. I think the latest stats are that there's over 1 billion people in the world that lack access to adequate footwear, and 300 million of those are children. That's almost the entire population of the United States, children barefoot. And that keeps them from running, playing soccer, going to school, but it also keeps them, they're not protected from deadly parasites in the ground, broken glass, or the scorching hot earth. And so it's a really big deal not to have shoes in other countries.
Carry it into some of the other things because you mentioned obviously the manufacturing side and that employment side. You've also got the residential side. So there's a lot to what you do, even like with the physical buildings. So talk about some of the other aspects that you want people to know.
Yeah, we employ 48 Ugandans, and that's as important as what we do with the shoes. We've had some of our tailors and shoemakers with us for over 10 years. So they've been able to support their family and their community, put their kids through school, all while using their heart and their hands to provide these shoes for children across Uganda. And so that's a really big part of what we do. Something that we're just stepping into in this next year is opening a mental health and addiction center for what we do, because we find that 7 out of 10 of the patients that we treat come with something else, something not physical. There's unseen burdens, and the abject poverty and everything else that exists in Uganda leads to addiction a lot of times. So we're trying to be more well-rounded and heal the entire person. It's not just about the feet, although that's what our main priority is.
Talk about how the community can help because obviously financial contributions are huge to underwrite your efforts. You mentioned the shoe cutting parties and being able to put those together. And, I love the fact that you get to reuse the denim and keep it out of the landfill as well. That's a whole nother blessing of it. But talk about the many ways the community can help.
Yeah, the easiest way to jump in is just with a small donation. We call it a 10 for 10 program. Your $10 covers 10 toes. And it's not so much that your $10 means a lot these days. I mean, what can it buy? Coffees are $6, $7 now. It's like $10 is shrinking. But when we collect 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, and they're all giving $10 a month, that sustains us and can make a big difference. So a good way to get involved with that is to go to soulhope.org/10, and you can read more about what your impact can do. The shoe cutting parties have grown up over the years as just a organic reach kind of thing. And we've taken steps recently to relaunch it into a business environment because along the way, we had people like Intuit and Apple and Papa John's do it with their C-suite as team building events. And so next month, we're relaunching the shoe party effort as a Soul Hope team building event. And we're going to be approaching HR directors and business leaders that want to gather their team and do something tangible. It seems like for international organizations, all you can do is thoughts and prayers or write a check, unless you're going to go to that country, which most of us are not. And so this is a way that you can tangibly touch the fabric that's going to be made into the shoes that get on the feet of children. And so to find out more about that, you can go to soulhope.org/shoe party. And there's a lot more information on how you can purchase that either for your company or just your small group at church, your mom's wine night out. We've had schools do them. It's been a really great way for Americans to get involved tangibly.
Yeah, I love the tangible aspect. And to your point, it's super creative because, as a team building opportunity, as a family coming together, a church group, like you actually get to be hands on and feel like you're making a
Yeah.
difference, do something that's fun and very different. So I love that aspect and I can see where that'd be extremely popular. So, how has this changed your perspective for you and your family on being a catalyst? Because as you mentioned, you kind of went in not knowing what was possible and what to expect. But when you look back now and see the lives transformed, how has it changed your perspective on being a catalyst to be able to power the good?
Wow, that's a deep question. It's been a 16-year journey of just a wild journey, but I'll think back to those early days of when we first discovered it. And something my dad always used to say is, when you see a problem, do something, whatever that might be. And it doesn't have to be something as big as trying to solve an epidemic in an East African country. When you just see a problem, do something. And if we would all take on more of that mindset, it would be a lot better world. But it's just changed everything about our lives. We were on a track to just a normal American life, which is, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we got rocked by seeing a problem and deciding that we could do something about it. And then everybody else who's come alongside us along the way saying, we want to be a part of this solution too, has just been tremendous. So when I look back over the past 16 years or so, it has just been a journey that God has led us on that has just exploded and changed so many lives. To your point of changing the trajectory of someone's life just by giving them shoes, essentially, it's not something that we think about often, but it truly changes lives. There's a lot of patient stories that I could tell you.
I think that it is the power of the shoes, obviously, but when you talk about the hands-on approach of literally like washing the feet, looking for the jiggers, pulling them out. Like it is a very hands-on, approach to what you're doing that is very different. Like it's one thing where if you're just giving the shoes, but to go to the depth that you're going to and the education, the classes, even the mental health is the next piece of this. Like that evolution, you're going in deep to build these relationships to show people you care, but also too to really help them, to be safe, to be healthy, but also, to have a thriving opportunity for their life. Talk about one or two of those success stories, and you don't have to obviously name names, but give us an idea of how this work is being impactful and
Yeah.
really transforming lives.
Well, I can name a name. This is Joy, a little girl named Joy. When I first met Joy, she was 10 years old, and her name is Joy, but she was the opposite of her name. And I don't think the opposite of joy is always despair. It can sometimes be shame. In her village, she was called, her nickname was Mbate Into, which means little duck. And you might think that's a cute nickname for a little girl. And it wasn't an endearing nickname. It was, they were making fun of her for the way that she had to walk on the heels of her feet, because the jiggers in her feet had transformed the way she walked. And so she had this abnormal kind of disformed walk. And her village really saw her as a curse, as a burden, and not as a child. So first met her, she had over 720 jiggers in her body. Once you get them in your feet, they start to spread because they're laying the eggs all around your soil in your home or in your school. And then you start to get them in your fingers because you're picking at them in your feet. Then if you're sleeping on the ground, you start to get them all over your body. And so she had over 720 of these. And another aspect of jiggers is that they feed on the blood. So the oxygen's not getting to the brain. And we often get children with just this blank stare in their eyes. They're just not quite there. They're not children. Number one, they can't walk, but also that mental kind of lag. And so met Joy. She came to our Hope Center, our residential facility. Over the next 2 days, we removed all of the jiggers. About 3 days later, she's starting to walk. About a week later, they start to play soccer and run around. I mean, it's that quick of a transformation. And then when Joy went home to her village, she stood tall. She embraced her name of Joy. She was full of joy. And it's almost like bringing a child back from the dead to some of these parents. I know that's an extreme thing to say, but I know when we pick up some children in the villages through our social workers that their parents are thinking they're not going to see them again. There's no hope for this problem of jiggers in their mind. And so when we return a month later with a child running around, playing, being a child, There's nothing like that. I mean, it's just totally changed her life forever and started to change the life of the village to really combat this disease that should be easily taken care of. But there's so many mental roadblocks.
I'm glad that you went into that detail because I think that's an important piece of this is how it can get to other parts of the body and it also to the brain lag, like you mentioned. I mean, I think bringing them back from almost kind of the blank stare, almost a dead state and with no hope, and all of a sudden, coming back and now they're a kid again and can
Yeah.
fully function. Like that is a huge, huge transformation. And so, yeah, thank you for what you're doing, but also too for that illustration because I think that's important perspective for the listeners and viewers. Carry that again into the shoe cutting parties. Once again, how can we help and where do we go to get involved and start supporting your efforts?
Yeah, the overall website is solehope.org, SOLE hope.org. And to get more involved in just giving for 10 for 10, which is a monthly giving program of just $10, solehope.org/10. And if your company or your small group or your church is interested in hosting a shoe cutting party, it's solehope.org/shoe party. And that's all on the website. And we're a great follow on Instagram. Some of those stories of transformation of the child when they arrive to them playing soccer. I mean, it's just right there. And I think it speaks to our Americanness of wanting to see the before and after. We want to see, we gave some money, we want to see a result. For whatever that's worth, we see that through Soul Hope. There's not many things that are as that quick of a transformation from you giving your generosity to an outcome that totally changes somebody's trajectory of their life.
Yeah. Well, Drü, thank you for everything you and your amazing team at Soul Hope are doing to change lives and power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.